We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, and welcome to the POMcast on this beautiful Tuesday morning, coming to you live from the palatial Central Florida studios. Side note, I've been recruiting people ever since I got down here like 5 months ago, and I'm now 3 for 4 on recruiting people moving down here as well. So that's pretty cool. It shows you how wonderful it is down here, how the weather is great down here all the time. And everybody's like, well, it's going to be hot. Well, it's hot in Mississippi. It's hot in Tennessee. It's hot in Georgia. So yeah, this is going to be quite fun. I'm very excited. I'm going to Epcot this weekend, by the way. As my little gotten vaccinated, get back in society trip out with my wife. We're going to go to the Italian Pavilion at Epcot. So if you're there, say hi to me. Say hi to my wife. I'll be the one wearing the Ole Miss gear. I'm not hiding it that much. So that is pretty exciting. We got a bunch of stuff going on. Again, sorry I wasn't here yesterday. Had to do some VA type stuff. Nothing terrible. Nothing's going bad. I just needed to get vaccinated actually get a tetanus shot because it was time for the booster. They're just pretty insistent on keeping up with the shots. That's one of the reasons I like going through them for healthcare. Before we get started, I want to tell you about the Vault Society. What is the Vault Society? Well, it's a big push of the Ole Miss Athletics Foundation. It's a 5-year commitment of support. Membership starts at $5,000 a year, and there's a benefit chart on the site. All gifts to Ole Miss between now and June 30th will receive triple points. Red points are non-deductible and go towards priority seating. Blue points are 90% tax deductible and go towards parking and non-home ticketed games. That'd be postseason bowl games. Neutral site, we got a big one on Labor Day that would fill that role as well. That is the Vault Society. You can check out more at give2athletics.com. Again, that is give2athletics.com. You can catch the show on Twitter at The Rebel Walk and The Stephen Willis. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. And also the Rebel Walk on Facebook. We're on YouTube at Positively Ole Miss. You can check us out there. We have other stuff on that YouTube channel that is aside from us. We have the greatest games from all time that we found. We got the on-demand games. If you want to go back and watch it, they're available. All the press conferences go there so you can see it in their entirety and things like that. It's going to be really cool. It's a place where you can go and like bookmark it, subscribe it, and the season, whenever they start doing the season, will populate in that area as well. So we have that at Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell. You know, we don't normally we're not high up on the YouTube, but it's a part of our distribution, so we appreciate if you do it. Right now, we're more Twitter and Facebook based. We're getting a lot of numbers on that side, so thank you very much for that. We're also on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word, and Willis Digital Media YouTube and Willis Digital Media Twitch. Just kind of catch-alls for all the videos that we do, not just the Ole Miss ones. So we're having a lot of fun doing all that in the video side. But if you're an audio person, we're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. Tune in for that. Just very, very into my little under the weather thing. But I want to talk to you a little bit today about the state of the media when it covers Ole Miss football, and give you a little bit of critical thinking and something to think about whenever you hear a story, whenever you hear a rumor, things like that. This is coming from working at Rivals for close to a decade, working in the local news media. I mean, I have a 20-year and fairly impressive resume when it comes to the media, so I think I know what I'm talking about on this. So, what we have devolved to as a country overall in media is a result of a slicing of the pie. Now, it used to be like three things, a pie chart, like ABC, NBC, CBS, and then occasionally your local newspaper, and that filled all of the news. That filled everything. That covered it all. So the slice of the pie was like 25%. It was a large chunk of people. Well, now the pie is increasingly dropped down as smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, and then you have a thing like the subscription services Ole Miss. They're probably somewhere in the 6,000 range, which, if you think about it, whenever you go to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, that's about 1/10, or the visiting fan travel party, that if you need a visual aid of that. But their influence goes beyond that. And they've taken that. They're the ones that break the stories. They're the ones that do all that. Even though they're at an organization with a circulation about the size of a small Mississippi town, it's still inflated because people go back to the way it was and try to bring it back to what it is now. And there's no way you can bring those back and forth. And I say that to say this. As it's gone to smaller and smaller areas, the level of influence and the layers between money and content has shrunk. So there used to be 5 or 6 layers before money would get involved. You could have a boycott in the Clarion Ledger, and it doesn't really affect the editorial content because there's so many levels of separation that allows those people doing the editorial content to do their job without really thinking about money. They're just an employee. They're just cashing a check. They're just a guy like anybody else. Well, as it's moved on and we did this niche thing, the layers have gotten smaller and smaller to now where money is touching editorial content. So every story that is done has to make you money. It's either a money maker or a money loser, and you're not going to cover money losers. So it hurts the fan and the experience about what's being covered. Because there's some people like David Johnson at the Spirit that covers things like Ole Miss softball and things like that, Ole Miss soccer, and does that. But it's just because he enjoys doing it. It's not because of any financial thing that's doing it. It's just because he enjoys doing it. There's others that will only cover what makes them money because everything is finance, financial incentive, financial motivated, and things like that. So for people like that, the way this goes, the biggest money maker for that group would be a coaching search. They make money off the coaching search and spreading that because they appeared like they have information that the other one doesn't have, and there's a crazy site wars. We're not going to get into all that. But a coaching search is the lifeblood of the subscription service, especially a football coaching search. But we'll get into that in a second. And it is not my place to talk at all about whether or not a coach needs to be changed. That's not what we're doing on this platform. You want that to go other places, go to Twitter. I'm not competing with any soul on the Ole Miss beat. I'm doing my own thing, And nobody has anything that looks remotely like this and are doing things like this. So I'm not competing with anybody. If I do my job correctly, that just means they have to work harder for you and provide an experience that is better for you. And that is something that we're leaning into at Positively Ole Miss. Is we're going to report the news, we're going to talk about what's going on, we're going to have opinions about what's going on. But we're not going to necessarily use that platform to call out people and try and make. We have a different financial model than other people have. I've left my job at Dell, and we're going to try and do an apolitical show. We're going to try to just cover sports down the middle, and we're going to give you different programs like previews and post views that you can tune into. And it's a blip. It's not more than 30 minutes at a time for the POMcast. It's really not more than 15 or 20 before the preview and instant reaction. So it's a little blip of time because we view time as the most important asset that you have. It's not money. It's not anything else. It's time. It's whether or not you can do it. So a coaching search is the most important thing for subscription service. Know that motivation right off the bat. When Lane Kiffin got hired, as soon as they got hired, they banked that coaching search, rode the wave of goodwill, and at some point they will turn on him and start planting the seed that he needs to go, that we need to go a different direction to try and run him out of town because they want to get to the next coaching search. They have no loyalty to Ole Miss. It doesn't matter if things are going well or not. It's all about what will make them the most money, and that is going to be a coaching search. And they're starting to crank that up in baseball. You can see that. And it's important to know that Mike Bianco is not going anywhere. He's National Coach of the Year last year. He's averaging 40 wins a season. Ole Miss is never bottoming out. You never have to worry about that program. He's going nowhere. But that's not going to stop them from planting the seeds in the fan base that a change needs to happen. Because if they can do that and get enough of an upswell and make it seem like the fan base wants that, even though they're a small amount, you end up with a cut type situation. Sorry about that. And you end up with an Ed Oscott type situation. And that little disaster in the mid-2000s that allowed my rise within the program appears again. And it's all about stability and not bottoming out. And they will actually talk about the fact that they do not want mediocrity. They want you to be happy. They want you to be angry. Those are one of the two things. Because either way, they can sell those and provide some semblance of a service in their mind. But in reality, you have to look at that motivation. You have to look at every story that comes out with a cynical eye and what is their motivation. It's not because everybody has a motivation. Everybody. It doesn't, they play the fan card. That's one motivation. What about the money card? If you're making money off of content, it's a problem. And that is how we've gotten into this weird national ecosystem of everybody has their own bubble of alternative realities. Because it all, you can go back and look, and it started with message boards on those sites. There's many people that don't like to participate in message boards. I get that. But you need to look at it with a cynical eye. It's a small bubble of people. It does not need to reach the influence level that it sometimes does. So be careful. Enjoy that. And remember that whenever people talk about coaching changes and stuff like that, even when it doesn't make sense and they start throwing out statistics and everything going on, it's not necessarily the case. It's not necessarily something that you should do. And honestly, it feels like peer pressure back to high school of people trying to talk you into doing something that you don't really want to do and you don't really need to do. Again, it's not about protecting a job. It's not about causing a job. It's about the job is none of my business. Root for the team that's out there, but we don't do hypotheticals necessarily. We don't try to create drama over what could happen. If you see things with Arch Manning, that's another way they do it. Anxious and anxiety. I mean, that's their whole business model. You have to be a pretty sour, cynical outlook to hold that business model. But that is exactly the business model. But I just wanted to tell you, because I spent 10 years behind that curtain. I know exactly what that curtain looks like. I know exactly what draws eyeballs. I've helped sites on the local level grow. I've helped sites on the national level grow. Just be careful, know the motivation, and honestly know where your money goes. If you're going to do it, because it is a reflection of you. If you invested in something and you found out that ISIS was getting your hands on your dollars, that would change things. So those are the things I recommend when dealing with a local tier subscription site. If you do that and know that motivation, it can prevent you from getting sucked into that bubble, and which honestly I was at one time. I was all about drinking the Kool-Aid. But it will allow you to be more of a free thinker, allow you to enjoy the sport that you enjoy more than you are currently, and just frees up a ton of time. Time is the most important avenue we have. It is not meant to be wasted on a screen, period. That's the reason we try to keep things short, and we want to talk about what's going on. So we're going to take a short break. Thank you very much for joining us today. When we come back, we will talk a little bit about football season and the pathway moving forward of excitement, getting back to it. So it should be a lot of fun looking at. But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll handle that. All right, howdy toddy.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, welcome back to the POMcast on this Tuesday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about the Rebel Walk and the work that Evelyn and the team are doing over there. You can see the bug on the screen. I want to talk as much because they provide a subscriber level experience for no money. Doesn't cost anything. There's nothing there. You do not have to question that part of the motivation. They have several people that cover all the sports. Like, they're probably the largest team that cover Ole Miss sports. There's so many people that work on the site, so many nice people, so much great stuff, and you won't regret tuning into them. That is the rebelwalk.com. That is the rebelwalk.com. You know, we are probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, what is it, about 100 days maybe until the Ole Miss Louisville game in the Georgia Dome. And I was just thinking about what that game will mean. I mean, as it's going up, we broke, I think, under a 7-day rolling average of under 40,000 cases as more people get vaccinated. Fantastic news there. So we're trending towards a 100 open stadium. And what concerns me about that one, the reason I say that is like, hey, the Braves were just 100% open, and they're about to do Atlanta United, and it's like, that's great, but the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is an indoor facility. So that makes me worry about, you know, what's going to happen down the line. But as it's trending, it's looking like it's going to be a 100% open stadium, which is fantastic. That's fantastic for our kids. It's fantastic for this offense, to be honest. Matt Corral getting to do it, he actually, you know, deserves to do it. He's got the track record to deserve it. So it's fantastic. So Scott Satterfield, fantastic coach at Louisville. Brian Brown, defensive coordinator. So you're looking at a 3-4 scheme. So it should be interesting to see that Matt Corral offense and Jerry Neely and all the weapons lining up offensively going against that defense. It should be a lot of fun to see. But the thing that makes me most excited is going to be what's going on in the crowd. You know, the crowd noise in the background, the band playing, all of a sudden the cheerleaders are there. It's going to look like we expect a college game to look like. And I do worry a little bit that the culture shock is going to get to some players because they're going to get not used to doing this. So just popping up, and there's who knows how many people are going to go to the game. There's a lot of people that are nervous about going out in public. I told you at the beginning of the podcast, Saturday I'm going to Epcot with my wife to eat at the Italian Pavilion. But I don't know how I'm going to react being around people. I'm not going to know how it's going to be. You know, after 12, 13 months, I mean, it's difficult to think. So I want to see how somebody that's supposed to produce, that is supposed to be at a high level, is going to do after a 1-year layoff of not seeing those size crowds. Because let's be honest, last year was high school size crowds. All of those players were used to it. So this year is going to be a little bit different. Sorry about that. So, not just there, but the next week against Austin Peay in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. How many people is going to turn out for the first time to tailgate in the Grove? How's the Grove going to look? What over the last year has indelibly has changed, essentially, over what we're used to, how we consume a game. Because there's going to be some people that go to the stadium all the time. There's going to be some that watch it on a flat screen. Because with I got two 65-inch 4K TVs. You know, why not give it a look there? So, I'm really curious about this season and what it brings, probably more so than last season. Because, there's so many unknowns because this time, instead of dictating human behavior as a general thing like they did last year, because that's what the cap was about, was dictating human behavior. Now it's dictating human behavior at an individual level where you can't reasonably predict a reaction. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope the kids are ready to rise to that moment, because I think that moment is actually going to be a big deal, especially early in the season against Louisville and probably even against Austin Peay. Also that month we're going to Alabama. So September of this year is going to be quite interesting for what could be a big year. But there's also a drop-off. At Florida Atlantic, they won the conference their first year. They went 5-6 or 6-7 or something, or 5-7 their second year, and then won the conference their third year. So a lot of that has to do with who's calling the signals. I don't expect a drop-off with Matt Corral at quarterback, but something to keep in mind. We've been all about that FEU train and talking about what's going on. So we're going to give you a couple minutes back. We've kind of hit that kind of time of year. Tune in tomorrow for more POMcast. Yeah, I forgot the name of the show for a second. And on social media, all the avenues that are broadcasting it. So thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow. Howdy toddy.